and pitying eyes. "So my parents died, Maggie," Quil wanted to say to her. "So I go to boarding school and get farmed out in the holidays because Auntie Pam spends half her life flying around the world on business. So what? I'm used to it. I don't need your sympathy. I don't want it." But of course she didn't say anything like that. She just said please and thank you at the right moments, and politely agreed with whatever Maggie suggested she might like to do, including looking at scrappy market stalls in aid of a local hospital, because Maggie had been so keen to get her charge safely onto the train and off her hands that they'd arrived at the station 40 minutes early. Quil knew it was pointless to feel irritated. Long ago, when she'd first invented the private people sorting game she called Stardust and started making up names for all the different groups she noticed, she'd decided that Maggie Kosh was definitely an Aganoth person. Auntie Pam was mainly Aganoth too, which was why she and Maggie got on so well. But positive, confident Aganoths always felt edgy around self-contained Polaris types like Quil, and vice versa. The two groups were like oil and water. However hard they tried, however long they spent together, their minds just couldn't mix. It was just one of those things. Quil drifted to the next stall. Jams, pickles, and chutneys. She stared at the rows of neatly labelled jars and willed time to pass. Not that she was looking forward to the holiday camp across the mountains, where she was to spend the next 4 weeks till school began again. Her aunt, dropping her off at Maggie's townhouse the night before on her way to the airport, said that Maggie had done wonders to find a place that could take Quil at such short notice. Quil was sure that any holiday camp with vacancies at this time of the year would be terrible. Still, at least on the train she'd be sitting down and alone. Quil checked the time and sighed when she saw that it was still only 5 to 9. Her train wasn't due for half an hour. Hitching up her backpack, she wandered to the next stall in line. At the same moment, in a tidy, silent apartment on the other side of the harbour, Prudence Bale finished watering the peace lily that had sat in the exact centre of her highly polished coffee table for 3 long months. On her desk in the corner, behind the sleeping laptop computer, an elegant 400-day clock worked tirelessly beneath its glass dome, counting the empty minutes. The plant and the clock had been presented to Bailey on her last day of work with the company she'd served for almost 30 years. Before the takeover, before the New Zealand office she'd managed had been closed down, before the sleek new boss at head office, his plump hands with their perfectly clean nails folded on his perfectly clean desk, had so smoothly told her that the new role created for her on return to Sydney hadn't worked out, and he was going to have to let her go. He'd pretended to regret it, but Bailey was fairly sure he'd planned it all along. Old-timers like her didn't fit the company's new, dynamic image. The peace lily had been nodding with white blooms when Bailey brought it home, but there were no flowers now, just a bunch of glossy green leaves that looked as if they were made of plastic. Bailey pushed away the thought that this was some sort of symbol of her life. She tore her eyes from the plant, only to find herself staring at the laptop and remembering that its darkened screen masked an irritating email she didn't want to answer. "Hi, Bailey. Just wondering how you're getting on. Len heard Pools had hired someone else for that job you went for. Bad luck. I suppose they took on some bright young thing with more looks than sense. Well, you knew it was going to be hard to get another job at your age. As Len says, maybe you should set your sights a bit lower. Something part-time, maybe. It's not